This video introduces the FileCruiser Setup Wizard. The FileCruiser uses DHCP by default to obtain IP settings. If you have not already done so, you need to connect a keyboard and monitor to the server before logging into the administration portal. Now that you have the IP address of the FileCruiser system, you are able to perform the basic tasks for system configuration with or without using the Setup Wizard. To log in to the administration portal, use a computer connected to the same subnet as the FileCruiser and type the system IP address into the address bar of a web browser, followed by /admin. The address should look like this. The FileCruiser administration portal login menu appears. Use the default username, administrator, and default user password to log in. Since the system has not yet been configured, the Setup Wizard menu appears. Use this menu to create basic settings, including importing the license. Step 1. Configure the time zone. For first-time setup, the time zone setting must be configured before continuing to configure the FileCruiser. Choose your geographical region and city from the pull-down menu. Enter an IP address for NTP service in the Sync with NTP field. The NTP service is used to set the time accordingly and in the selected time zone. Click Save to continue to the next step. Step 2. Set up the network. Before creating the cluster, configure the server to use a static IP address. Click on the pencil icon under Action for the ETH0 interface, which is the port 1 to change the IP settings. A new menu appears. Click to select the Use Static IP Address and type a fixed IP address, subnet mask, and default gateway. Click the Submit button to commit the IP settings. The server is now ready to form a server cluster. The third step is to add and join a cluster. The cluster is actually created in 2 separate steps, but both steps use the same Setup Wizard menu. The first FileCruiser server device is configured so that the other server devices can join the cluster. 1. Type the virtual IP address to be used for the cluster in the master IP field. This should be a unique static IP address in the same subnet as the static IP address you just configured in the previous step. 2. Type the name of the network interface ETH0 in the network drive field. 3. Enter the IP address of the portal created for the VES R2600 in storage IP. 4. Enter the mount path. 5. Type a cluster name for the new cluster. 6. Click on the Build a New Cluster button. Now additional servers can be added. Follow the remaining steps to continue setting up the necessary configuration settings on this server. Then add a new server to the cluster. Note that it will be necessary to perform the same time zone and network setting tasks in the new server before you can continue or combine to add it to the cluster. Click Confirm for the system to reboot. As you can see, it directs you to the VIP. Input the password. Step 4. Import FileCruiser license. If you have not yet obtained the FileCruiser license, please do so. 1. Click on the Import License button in Step 2, and a new menu will appear. 2. Click on the Import File button and locate the MD5 file with the MD5 key and user password needed to activate the FileCruiser license. Three. Click on the Import License File button and select the key file to import the license. Step 5. Endpoint. Type in the URL or IP address for the user portal. The user portal is where all users of FileCruiser first go to log in and use the system. You can test to see if the domain will work by clicking the Test button. Or click Save to apply the settings and continue to the next step. Click Cancel if you want to set this later. Step 6. Set up email server. Set up mail server settings to receive notifications of events. To configure mail server settings, 1. Enter the server URL or IP address in the server entry field. Or click Cancel if you want to set this later. 2. Enter the port number used to email services. 3. Choose whether authentication is needed. If so, enter the username and password for the email account. 4. Choose the connection type, if any, used for the authentication email login. 5. Enter the sender name and the email address used for the notifications and server address. 6. Select the log level. 7. Click the Test Settings button to verify that the email server settings are working. 8. Click on the Save button to save the email settings. Step 7. Configure the domain. 1. Enter the domain name used for login to FileCruiser, or click Cancel to set this up later. 2. Enter a capacity amount to use for the entire domain. 3. Choose the authentication type, but in this video we use a system built, which is local. 4. Click Save to apply the settings. If you have completed all the steps, you can continue to set up user accounts or do other configuration through the administration portal. When you have completed the Setup Wizard steps, the user list appears. You can set up user accounts or continue to perform other configuration tasks. Thank you for listening.